Hello students, welcome to COM 565 capstone project for the Masters in Communication week 3. This week we are completing our methodology section, so our information will discuss how to construct your methodology. Additionally, if you're reading the eBury text or highlighting over that, chapters 5 and 6 are required, as well as watching the three particular videos on writing a methodology, writing a great paper, and this weekly lecture. If you are meeting with me in week 3 and you have not scheduled your appointment, please do so now. If you're meeting with me in week 4, it's important that you also reach out to me this week to schedule your week 4 meeting. As we're getting into the methodology section, remember you are required to write 5 to 7 pages within your methodology, which should not be hard to meet that requirement if you're constructing everything the way that you should be constructing it. If you're conducting a qualitative research proposal or research, your method section should describe how each objective of your study within your research objectives will be achieved within your study. You need to provide enough detail to really enable the reader to make an informed assessment of the methods being utilized and how you plan to do that, as well as your actual survey instrument for your quantitative research. Remember that within the study population and sampling, you need to determine where the data is coming from, how robust it is, note where there may be gaps that will be existing or excluded, and how the procedures will be utilized within their selection of the sampling. How are you going to pick people for your study? Data collection is requiring you to, section within this methodology is requiring you to collect and determine and tell me how you're going to, 1, collect information, identify the variables being measured, describe methods used to obtain your data, looking at pre-existing information that you may find, or anything that we need to be aware of when we're utilizing the data collection process. Are you going to put this on social media? Are you going to put it on a website? Are you going to email it out? How will you collect your surveys if you were to implement this research? The next one is data analysis. This is where you need to describe the procedures for processing and analyzing your data, as well as describing the specific instruments you plan to use within your study. This is where you put your sample. This is where you talk about the mathematical techniques and the particular statistical analysis like systems like SPSS that you may use if you were to actually conduct the research. Qualitative methods sections asks you to write a structured approach to applying your method to ensuring that there is comparability of data across multiple sources to provide validity of your research. This is really useful in answering questions that deal with the differences between some type of communication phenomenon or explanation of the differences within communication behaviors. Qualitative research and methods in itself is unstructured, so your method sections will be organized depending on the particular phenomenon you're studying. You need to really make sure that you are facilitating some type of understanding of the process that's leading towards the specific outcomes you desire to achieve within your study. We're not looking more at generalizability, and being able to generalize the information. We're looking more at comparing for internal validity by looking at determining how fair research was conducted, and looking for more contextual and evaluative information for developing an understanding of the data we collect. As you construct your qualitative methodology section, you need to ask yourself a couple of questions. For example, you need to determine what will you actually do in conducting this study, and you need to tell us that within the section, and what approaches and techniques will you use to collect and analyze your data. If you're utilizing a research proposal, you need to include a sample interview guide. At this point, if you're conducting the research, you also have to provide an interview guide, but that will be put at the end of your paper in an appendix after your research is conducted. You need to define and provide a clear conceptual framework for the study. You need to think about what's going on with particular issues or settings or people you plan to interview. You need to look at prior research findings to inform your research, tie in your literature and preliminary studies as well as personal experiences to draw upon, and go from there. If you're conducting a rhetorical analysis, your method section is significantly shorter in length. You should still shoot to meet the 5-page requirement as much as you can. However, you will need to provide a clear definition of the method. You need to clearly introduce the theory you're maybe using in your rhetorical analyses, provide a plan for your analysis, and tell us how you will be analyzing your particular artifact, and share the rhetorical theory which is different than the communication theory you're using to analyze. You also need to identify a rhetorical theory you're utilizing within this entire process. Are you invoking invitational rhetoric or some type of narrative paradigm or whatever it may be? You need to identify that at this point as well as rationalize the need for the analysis of the artifact. You will describe the artifact in the following section, in the artifact section. So what you are here in your methodology is setting everything up to fully introduce the artifact and begin to analyze it after this point. As you go through the week 3 information, make sure that you really stay true to hitting the 5-page, full-page mark on your drafts that will help you hit the 30 to 50-page requirement for your capstone project. You are almost at the halfway point, so you should feel very good about where you're at with your drafts. And if you need particular feedback from me prior to submitting your draft, please contact me earlier in the week. If you have any questions, let me know. I look forward to meeting with you this week or next week, depending on when you're scheduled. And I pray you all have a blessed